All right, ladies and gentlemen, finally, after over a year of delays, we are finally kickstarting the third channel, the Real Talk channel. And for those of you that this may be the first video of mine, period, that you're seeing, my name is JeskerJames on this channel, but I'm more commonly known as JeskerJames on my other two channels. I do have two other channels. One's a video game channel, one's a pop culture channel. And I've been doing those for a little bit, been doing those for a little while. We are slowly but surely, we are growing. And so I decided I was going to do a third channel, one where I can talk about real world issues. And one of those is politics. And I don't want to necessarily call this a political channel. I don't want to say that this channel is going to be entirely devoted to politics. This is more so a real talk channel. And one of those real world subjects is, of course, politics. So I thought, okay, what's a good way to start this off? What video should we do first as kind of like the first launching point of the channel? And I was like, all right, let's actually talk about this upcoming election, because that's what everybody's talking about right now. You see the title down below, the rematch that no one wanted. Trump versus Biden. And for all intents and purposes, we are going to assume that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee for the Democrats and that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee for the Republicans. That's what we're going to assume, because at this point, 1 year out from Election Day in 2024, that seems to be the most likely scenario. Now, both of these guys are, pretty old. Nature could take its course. It could happen, or Trump's legal issues could get in the way of him actually running. We'll see. But as of right now, 1 year out from Election Day, the most likely scenario is that we're going to get a Joe Biden versus Donald Trump rematch in 2024. So 1 year from today, 1 year from when this is being released publicly on YouTube, we are going to get the 2024 election, the rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the rematch that no one wanted. Now, this video is coming out early over on the Patreon. If you guys don't know, I do have a Patreon. The link to that Patreon is going to be linked down in the description box down below. You do get early access to certain videos, including this one. This one has probably come out a couple of days early on the Patreon. So if you want early access to videos like this and much more, go check out the Patreon. Link to that is down in the description box down below. All right. So let's actually dive into this. Let's get to this. So the rematch that no one wanted, I don't think anyone's particularly excited. Well, I can't say that no one's particularly excited. The Trump supporters are very excited about Donald Trump running for re-election. All right. We do have a core group of supporters for Donald Trump. On the Democratic side, I don't think anyone's really excited about Biden, but he's kind of like the only option on the left. There are other people. There's, Cornel West is running, I know, for example. But as far as like serious contenders, people that actually have a shot of winning this thing, Joe Biden's really their guy. So, but the excitement and the enthusiasm is not really there. And I think among independent voters and non-party affiliated voters, I don't think anyone's really excited about this rematch. I think people would prefer that we got some kind of new young blood. I think people would prefer that we got some new candidates in there. I don't think anyone's really looking at this and it's like, oh yeah, here we go, 2020 all over again. Like, to me, it's kind of a headache. I'll be honest with you. I wish both sides would put up different candidates and get some young blood in there, but it is what it is. We have what we have, and that is Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. So we're going to assume that is who is going to be running. That is who is going to be here in 2024 on the ticket. So let's dive into this. I do need to go ahead and remove the bottom text there, because you guys won't be able to see Alaska. So there we go. That is out of the way. Good stuff. Okay, so let's actually dive into this. So to start off, we're taking a look at this map. It's completely blank right now. I'm not going to go through each state one by one. I may do that in a different video. Some of these states are very obvious. Some of these states have gone for either side for a very long time. So we're going to knock them out of the way first. So let's go ahead and start over here on the West Coast, and we'll get some of these out of the way. So we know that Washington is going to go blue. Washington always goes blue. Same thing with Oregon. The entire West Coast goes blue. All right, there's no chance for the Republican to win here. So now we move a little bit further east towards the eastern seaboard of the country, and we get to Idaho, that's going to go red. Utah is going to go red. You got a very strong Mormon population in Utah, and Mormons usually go red. It's a very religious state, and of course, the religious segment of the population usually goes Republican. So Utah's red, Wyoming red, Montana red, North Dakota red, South Dakota red, Nebraska. Yeah, now Nebraska does split up their congressional districts, but I think they're all going red pretty much. It really, unless it's like super close, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Kansas red, Oklahoma red, Arkansas red, Missouri red, Iowa red, Louisiana red, Mississippi red, Alabama red. We'll save the Carolinas for later. Tennessee red, Kentucky red, Indiana red. West Virginia has been a toss-up state in the past, but I really do believe that West Virginia is going to go red. All right. So then we move up towards the East Coast, or the New England area, I should say. And we're going to go to New York first. New York is blue. Vermont is blue. New Hampshire has been a toss-up state in the past. Not so much lately. I think it's going to go blue. Maine is going to go blue. I'm just going to go ahead and award all the districts to Biden. Massachusetts, heavily blue. Connecticut, blue. Rhode Island, blue. New Jersey, blue. Delaware, which is Biden's home state, blue. Maryland, blue. DC, blue. And then we get down to Hawaii. Hawaii's blue, and Alaska usually goes red. So as far as states that are definitely going to go to one or the other candidates, this is what we have. All right. The rest of these are potential toss-up states, some more than others, but and some of them are not really toss-up states yet, but they're interesting enough that I do want to discuss them. But as far as like states that we know are going to go into either camp, these are the states that are for sure going to go for the Democrat, and these are the states that are for sure going to go to the Republican. So everything you see in blue right here is definitely a Democratic state, definitely going to go for Joe Biden. Everything you see in red here is definitely going to go for Trump, going to go for the Republican. So this is what is set in stone. So what do we have so far? We have Donald Trump, the Republican, at 123 Electoral College votes. And we have Joe Biden, the Democrat, at 169 Electoral College votes. You need 270 to win. So right now, just starting off, Joe Biden has a slight lead. All right. So let's actually dive into some of these other states, some of these other potential toss-up states. Again, not all of these are going to be toss-up states. Some of these are pretty damn obvious, but they're interesting enough that I want to talk about because they could potentially become toss-up states, or they have been toss-up states in the past, but now they've kind of gone into that solid category for either side. So first of all, I want to talk about Florida. Florida in the past has been a major toss-up state. It has decided presidential elections in the past, the most famous example being the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. And of course, there was a whole controversy there about the ballots and everything. And, you know, it was a whole mess. I know some of you guys watching this probably weren't even born in the year 2000, but it was a huge controversy. And of course, we know that George Bush ultimately came out on top. He won the election, but still, elections have been decided on Florida alone. And the most popular example of that was the 2000 election between Bush and Gore. Now, in recent years, Florida has become much more right, much more conservative. And so, honestly, at this point, I would say that Florida, while technically you could call it a toss-up state, I really think at this point it is more firmly in the Republican column. I'm not going to say that it's solid Republican, but I would say that it leans Republican at this point. So we're going to give Florida to the Republican, to Donald Trump. There we go. All right. Now, the next state that I want to talk about is Texas. Now, Texas is interesting because Texas has been a bastion of Republican electoral college votes. It has been a solid red state for many, many years. And going into 2024, it is still going to go to the Republican. I have no doubt about that. It's still going to go to the Republican. It's still the 40 electoral college votes in Texas will go to the Republican candidate. I have no doubt about that. But the demographics are changing. The demographics in Texas are definitely changing. And if things keep going in the direction that they are with the demographics, with the population, a higher Hispanic population, we could see Texas become a legitimate toss-up state. It's not going to go all the way blue, at least not for a while, but we could see it become purple. We could see it become a legitimate toss-up state within the next couple of election cycles. So I'm not even going to say 2028, but potentially probably in the 2030s, we could see this become a toss-up state. So probably not in the 2028 election, but 2032, definitely by 2036, we could see this become a toss-up state. But for now, for the 2024 election, it is still going to go for the Republican. All right, so with that out of the way, we see now that the Republican candidate, most likely to be Donald Trump, is going to get 193 electoral college votes with the addition of Florida and Texas. This puts Trump over the lead. It puts Trump ahead of Joe Biden, ahead of the Democratic candidate, who has 169 electoral college votes at this point. All right. So that being said, there is a couple of more stories that we want to talk about here. I forgot about Illinois. Illinois is definitely a Democratic state. My bad. Sorry about that. That should have been solid blue from the beginning. There's no way Illinois is going to go for the Republican. It's just not going to happen. So let's move on to a couple of other toss-up states, some interesting stuff that we see here. Colorado. Colorado in the past has been a toss-up state. It's been a very purple state. As long as I can remember watching elections, going back to the Clinton elections, going back to the Bush election, in the 90s and the early 2000s, Colorado has been a toss-up state. It's been very, 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 very purple. In recent years, really since the era of Obama, really since 2008 onwards, it's kind of been the anti-Florida. It's been the anti-Florida, where Florida has been trending more and more red in the last decade. Colorado has been trending more and more blue. And at this point, even though Colorado has been a toss-up state, I think at this point, it's probably, I don't want to say that it's solid blue, but it leans blue. It's definitely more in the lean blue category than anything else. So at this point, Colorado, I think, goes to the Democrat, goes to Biden. That now gives Biden the edge, gives Biden the lead at 198 electoral college votes compared to Trump's 193 electoral college votes. So then we get to some other states. We have New Mexico. New Mexico, I think, is a very similar case with Colorado. I think it's firmly in the Democratic column. Again, I'm not going to say it's solid blue, but it's likely blue. I think it's likely blue. Arizona and Nevada, very interesting case here. Very interesting case with Arizona and Nevada. These are states that are still very purple. And they lean one way or the other, but they're still very purple. Nevada, I would say, leans more so Democrat, whereas Arizona leans more so Republican. But we have seen some shifts here, and the shifts are not good for the Republicans. The shifts are not good for the Republicans. The shift is going towards the left. It's going towards the blue. It's going towards the Democrats. The question is, have these states shifted enough to where it's going to change things? I'm not ready to say that just yet. Not yet, but it is that they are starting to lean. They are starting to lean for sure. So when looking at Arizona and Nevada, again, it's a very tricky situation as far as like which one's going to go where. I'm kind of going to split the difference here, to be honest with you. I'm going to split the difference when it comes to these two states. And I'm going to say that Arizona still goes in the Republican column, but Nevada I'm going to give to the Democrat. So at this point, we still have a very close election. We have 204 for the Republican. We have 209 for the Democrat. All right. So that being said, let's jump into, again, some of the states that I think are really going to decide this election. So South Carolina and North Carolina. Let's move down to South Carolina and North Carolina. This is another situation very similar to Arizona and Nevada. These are potentially swing states. They have been in the past. They still kind of are now. But one of them leans one way and one of them leans the other. So South Carolina usually leans more towards the Republican. And so because of that, I'm going to put South Carolina in the Republican column. However, North Carolina, I think it leans a little more left. Not by much. It's still a swing state. Both of these are very purple states. But I'm going to throw North Carolina into the Democratic column. So now we see the Biden lead increase a little bit, because North Carolina has more electoral college votes. All right. Now let's talk about Ohio. Ohio is another one of those states, along with Florida, that was one of the big swing states. Elections have been won or lost in Ohio. However, Ohio, very similar to Florida, has been on a trend of going right, of going red. And I think that continues for this election cycle. So again, it's still a swing state. I still think it's going to be close. It's going to be competitive. But if I had to put money on it right now as to who wins Ohio, I would definitely say, just like with Florida, it's probably going to go in the Republican column, which now gives Trump the lead, gives the Republicans the lead with 230 for the Republicans, 225 for the Democrats. Now, we get to the last few states here. We have Minnesota, we have Wisconsin, we have Michigan, we have Pennsylvania, we have Virginia, and we have Georgia. These are the states I think will decide this election. Let's talk about Minnesota and let's talk about Virginia. All right. So first of all, Minnesota. In the past, Minnesota has been another one of those purple states. However, that being said, it has leaned more towards the Democrats lately. So I think it's going to be really, really close in Minnesota. But I do think there has been an uptick, especially in the last few years, the last 4 years, of Democrats gaining more popularity in Minnesota, gaining more power in Minnesota. So I'm going to throw it into the Democratic column. All right. Now I want to talk about Virginia. Virginia used to be very similar to Florida, very similar to Ohio, a big swing state. Not so much anymore. Now, on the state and local level, there is still a lot of Republican power on the state and local level. But when it comes to national politics, when it comes to presidential politics, Virginia has kind of been pretty solid for the Democrat. Ever since Obama, Virginia has been very solid for the Democrat. There's been a lot of Democratic support. And I think that's going to remain true once again. Again, it's going to be a very close race, but I think that the Democrat will pull it out in Virginia. All right. So let's look at where we stand now. We have the Republican, Donald Trump, at 230. We have the Democrat, Joe Biden, at 248. This is where I think the election's going to be decided. Look at the Rust Belt. Let's talk about the Rust Belt. Actually, let's talk about Georgia first, because we'll save the Rust Belt for last. But let's talk about Georgia. Georgia is another one of those purple states. It has gone Republican before. Lately, it has trended more towards the Democrat. And I think that's going to continue to be the case even now on the national level anyways. But I think that is going to continue to be the case in presidential politics. I think Georgia is going to go for the Democrats. So that brings the Democrat, Joe Biden, up to 264. That brings the Republican, Donald Trump, up to 230. That leaves us with 3 more states, that being Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. If Joe Biden wins any one of these 3, he's elected president. He's elected president. Donald Trump, the Republican, has a much more difficult road here when it comes down to this. Now, in the past, Donald Trump has won Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania has been a rarity. It has been a fool's gold for most Republicans. And in the past, it has gone for Donald Trump, but I don't think that's going to happen this time around. I truly believe that these 3 states, I think the Rust Belt, especially with all the union stuff going on now with the auto workers and everything in Michigan and Detroit, They're getting a lot more love from the Democratic Party. I think that's really going to boost Democratic support in 2024. But I do believe that all three of these states, the Rust Belt, is going to go to the Democrat. And that is going to bring the Democrat, Joe Biden, well past the 270 needed to win, with a total of 308 Electoral College votes compared to the Republican, Donald Trump, 230 Electoral College votes. Now, just based on how I did this map, you guys may be saying, so, all right, so what's your politics? Are you a lefty, a righty? It seems from this like you want Joe Biden to win. You guys will start to understand my politics as I make more videos going forward on this channel. I'm not going to give away all the secrets right now, but I am just looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at the demographic trends in each of these states. I'm looking at where the country is headed. I'm looking about some of the policies that are being passed, some of the policies that are getting support. I'm looking at the evidence. I'm looking at what I see, and what I see is a country trending left. And yes, there are pockets of the country that are trending more right. I pointed some out right here: Ohio, West Virginia, Florida, that are trending more right. This is true, and they're becoming very right, very red, very conservative. But these are pockets of the nation. Most of the nation, not most of the nation, but the real population centers are becoming more left. Independents are being turned away by some of the more radical elements of the right. And there's radical elements of the left. There's radical elements on both sides. But right now, the radical elements of the right are very prominent, in your face, and I think it's turning away a lot of independent voters, and I think they are going more left. And Donald Trump, regardless of what you think of him as a president, regardless of what you think about his policies, whether you think he was good, bad, whatever, as a person, he's very divisive. He's very in your face. He's very confrontational, and that turns off a lot of independent voters. And a lot of time, these elections are not decided based off the radical elements of both sides. It's not decided on the hardcore elements of the Democratic Party or the hardcore elements of the Republican Party. A lot of times, it's decided on the independent voter, or those that are more moderate in each party, that can switch from either party depending on who's running and what the circumstances are surrounding an election. And I think Donald Trump really turns off a lot of people. Does that mean I want Donald Trump to lose? Does that mean I want Joe Biden to win? You guys will find out more as I put out more videos discussing the political environment, the political climate. But as of right now, a year away from the 2024 elections, assuming that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are the candidates running for either party, this is how I think the election is going to go. This is my prediction a year from Election Day 2024. I think Joe Biden wins by 308 Electoral College votes. I think Trump loses with only 230 Electoral College votes. That is my prediction a year away from Election Day 2024. Tell me what you guys think about this down in the comment section down below. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the Patreon. It would be very much appreciated. And of course, give me your predictions. Give me your ideas. Give me your predictions for how you think this is going to play out. And let's try and remember something here, people. We're still a year away from the election. A lot can happen. A lot can change. All right. And depending on what happens, this whole prediction could be turned on its head. This is just pretty much, if the election was held today, this is how I think that it would go. All right. And of course, keep it civil down in the comments. Let's be nice to each other and just, simmer the heat down a little bit. All right. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. More videos are coming soon. Really appreciate it. This is my prediction. A year out from Election Day 2024, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. The rematch that no one really wants, but the rematch that unfortunately we're probably going to get. So that being said, I will see you guys next time. This is JeskerJames signing out.